we're back to do our free block for the Blog Hop Mania for October. For this month, the theme was family, and so we designed our little block here with our bunny and chicken and turkey. We're calling it We Are Family. And then they also give you each month, the design team gives you a color palette to follow. So I used a couple extra colors that are not in the palette, but these are the colors we're going to use. We're going to be using all Better Text Basics here. We've got the teal and the cream. The cream's going to be the background, the teal's going to be the ground. For the bunny, we've got the gray and the pink. For the chicken, we've got the gold and the orange. And then we're also going to carry the orange over into our turkey with the red, the light brown, and the dark brown. So we have all our fabrics picked. First step is to trace all of your templates. So I'm going to show you how to do it traditional method, but I also want to show you when you download your pattern. You have all your templates, but I've also this month included a placement drawing because there's a lot of little pieces to this, and I want to make sure that it's easy for you guys to assemble. So you get the chicken placement drawing, the bunny placement drawing, and then for the turkey, we broke him apart. So we've got his body and head and feet, and then we have his wings. So I'm going to show you how to trace these onto Fusible Web, and we're using Trans Web this month. So you're going to lay your Fusible Web on the drawing, and you're going to use a Sharpie ultra fine point pen to trace your shapes onto the paper side of the Fusible Web, and you're just going to trace it. And the reason I like to use this pen is the nib of the pen is the same thickness as your scissor blade, so you don't have to guess which side to cut the line on. So we're going to go ahead, you trace it. I also recommend copying over your notes. So this is turkey body, and it's fabric A, which if you look at the pattern is brown. So we know that's it. So you would do that for all of your pieces. Trace them like this. And then once you've got everything traced, you're going to roughly cut it out on the outside the drawn line. You don't want to cut on the drawn line because we're going to do that once we get it ironed to the fabric. So we get that done. Then we find the color we need. This is A. And you take an iron, follow the directions that are on your Fusible Web. Every Fusible Web has different time, has different temperatures, and you want to make sure that you're using the Fusible Web properly. So follow their directions for time and temperature. Make sure you're wrong side up. You place the Fusible Web onto the back, and you just iron around. Just takes a few seconds to get it on. Usually you can see it'll start to change color slightly because it's adhering to the fabric. And then we just cut this piece out. Now we cut it on the drawn line, and that will seal your edges with the glue, and you won't have fraying on your edges. And we're going to finish this with a blanket stitch, but you still it's better to have it sealed in glue than to have it just raw fabric. So once you've done this for all of your pieces, I'm going to get them all traced and cut here, and then we'll be back. I'm going to show you how to use an applique pressing sheet to assemble each of the characters, and then we'll get them assembled onto our background. So we have all our pieces cut for our We Are Family block, the free block for this month. I've gone ahead and cut and sewn together. This is a 3" by 12" 3" by 12.5" inch strip for the ground, and a 10" by 12.5" inch strip for the background. And I've gone ahead and sewn them together, and that will be our block background once we build our turkey, our bunny, and our chicken. What I want to show you this month is how to assemble it using an applique pressing sheet and the little placement drawings that we have with the pattern. So each animal has a placement drawing. I think I already showed you these. So there is the turkey and his feathers, and then we have the chicken, and we have the rabbit. So what you do with them is you take, we're going to start with the bunny because the bunny is my favorite. You take the placement drawing and you slide it under your applique pressing sheet. So what I'm using here is the Appli-Fuse mat. This is a nice durable silicone mat. We have these on our website. I will link it below. But these silicone mats are great for fusible applique. They're also great for anything that is dirty or sticky, like if you're using a glue gun or painting or inking, and then you can rinse it off because it is Teflon, so things don't stick to it. So we're going to do our bunny first. So we know we need our gray parts, which are here, and we need our pink parts, which are here, and then we need her black eyes, which are those. Or those are the white, sorry. That is not the black. So I cut these on the Cricut, so they're not labeled. If you cut them the way we showed you at the beginning of the video, they'd all be labeled on the back so you could follow along and find the pieces. That is the only drawback to the Cricut that I've found so far. So next is we need to take all the paper off of the back of our shapes. Let's put these up there so I don't screw them up. Oops. So you take a straight pin, you score the back, it becomes like a crack and peel. And because my papers have no labels, I can go ahead and peel all the papers off and get rid of them. This is my favorite way to do fusible applique, and applique was really the first types of patterns we designed. And as soon as I learned that we could do a placement drawing and use an applique pressing sheet, I was sold as a designer as that's how we were going to design it. So if you buy any of our applique patterns at the Whimsical Workshop, they come with full-size reverse templates like this and placement drawings when they're more detailed. If it's super simple, we don't give you a placement drawing, but anything detailed like this where it matters how things line up, we'll give you a placement drawing. And then you can just break out your applique pressing sheet and assemble it like this. So the theme for the free block this month was family. So this is what I picked. Was I thought I would create my own little character family from all of my characters I've designed over the years. So we have all the papers peeled off our bunny parts. We're going to start with the smallest element of the bunny, the face. So we're going to start with the eyes and the nose first because we can see them. Then we can peel those up as one unit and build the face with the ears. So let's start with the eyes. So first you lay the white on right where you can see it, and then you put the black on. Now this Appli-Fuse mat is great because there's a grippiness to the rubber, and it holds your shapes in place while you're positioning them so they don't move on you. And when you're dealing with these littler ones, it is easier to use a pin or the end of this purple thing to kind of help you position things so you don't bump them and move them out of position. So now I have all those in place. I'm going to go ahead and iron. Anywhere the fabric is touching fabric, it will fuse together, and anywhere it's touching the mat, we can just peel it right off. So there is the whole little head. And this is a chance you can go, oh, there's a little black maybe sticking out. You can, there is a little white on this one side. So before I put it on permanently, I can clean it up. And that's just personal preference. So there's the little face. So next up, we're going to do the ears. So we need one big ear and one little ear, and this just lines up with the bottom. And you can't see that, but I know, like, I line up with the bottom and then I just make it look pleasing. So you can't always see the shape. So here's their other ear. But now I have this shape and I'm not sure which way it goes. So I'm going to take this up, make sure I know how it goes. Then I'll put this back down so I know I have the orientation right. Oops. It does help to press as you go. Don't stack them up the way I am and then you bump them with your hand and all that work went away. So there's that one pressed. And again, you want to refer to the manufacturer's instructions for this to make sure that you're giving them the right amount of time and that you have enough heat. Now this one, I cut the bunny ear and I'm tucking the inside underneath it to give it some dimension. So that way when I go to stitch this, I only stitch on the sides in the gray. I don't have to stitch both sides. I don't have to stitch to the ear and I don't have to stitch to the interior. So there is his little ears. We're going to put his head on there. And I'm going to show you how to draw the mouth and lines after with a light box. So now I need to position his face on here, but I can't see it. So what you can do is you can fold this back to where the eyes are at the top, and you can make a crease with your finger. And then I fold into the edge on the one side and crease it, and that creates like a line there and a line there. So I know the edge of his eye goes right there. Okay? And then you can flip it down just to make sure that you've done it correctly. So now that that's on, go ahead and press those together. And I know he looks a little funny without his mouth, but I'll show you that in just a second. Alright, so then next up is his arm. Now this arm is like a funny little looking arm because it's tucked behind the turkey. So we're just gonna put that there. And then his body, no, his feet. His feet are under the body. So we're gonna put those on. And then I'm gonna put his body on, but his head is on top of the body. So you wanna make sure you lift that up. And then his belly, same thing. Just positioning that there. I'm just going to pull his head up, and we'll put that on after because it goes on top, and I don't want to iron over it. There it is. Alright. And then we're going to put his head on. And the reason you want to build these on a pressing sheet like this, not build them on your background, is if you make a mistake, you don't ruin the whole block. You just have to redo whatever you've made a mistake on over here. So you give it a nice good press, and we're going to just let that cool for a second, and then I can peel it right off the sheet, and we're going to move on to the chicken. So we're going to take this guy out, and I'm going to fast forward through the rest of these shapes so you don't have to listen to me while I'm doing them, but they're all done exactly the same way, and then I'll show you how we put them onto their background. Alright, so we have our turkey feathers, and we have our turkey, and our chicken, and our bunny. So now we're ready to build it up on our background. To put on our background, I'm going to build him the whole thing on here, as soon as I can find my picture. So this is where you're going to use the picture, and you're going to see that the bunny, he goes here, and his little arm tucks under here, which I accidentally pressed this too soon. So I'm going to pull this up gently, if I can. May have to heat that one so we can slide his arm in, but his belly goes in front. Actually, his belly goes in back. There we go. His little feet don't touch. Okay, now we pull that apart. And her belly goes in front. And if you see, their feet are in the same, they're standing in the same plane. So there are the three of them. So go ahead and press them. Let it cool for a second. And then we're going to peel all these guys up. We're going to bring the feathers down. So now I'm looking at where do the wings fall on the feathers. And that looks about right. And there we go. Our turkey and chicken and bunny block are all put together. We're going to give it another good ironing once we get it all on there. Again, let it cool for a second. And then we're going to peel it up. And always start with what's in the back to peel up. It's easier, you're less likely to pop it out. So now we get our background. We're done with this. Take our background, we're going to iron out any wrinkles. And then we're going to fold it in half both directions and crease so we have a center line. Okay, now that we have our center line, because we know Mr. Turkey is in the center, and we want all their feet standing on the ground. And then we iron it all down. And you see how much easier it was to press the entire built unit on the background versus trying to do each individual shape. And that is why I like placement drawings and applique pressing sheets. And again, this was the Appli-Fuse sheet. I'll put a link below for that. And then the pattern will have the placement drawings in it. And there it is. So now we just need to mark out its mouth, and I'm going to set up the light box so I can show you how to do that. Alright, so we need to draw the lines on the bunny face and feet. And I would recommend doing that before you iron him down on the turkey. It will make it much, much easier. But what you want to do is use a light box. I got this one from Amazon. It's super thin. I'll put a link below. It's just USB powered. You take the drawing, you lay it on the light box, and then you lay the shape on there. We're going to slide it up so you can do the feet first. And then you're going to want to use a pen or pencil that's washout, and you just follow the lines. Nope, this foot I didn't put quite in the same spot. There we go. And I'm going to show you on the machine how you machine embroider those, but you could also hand embroider it. Alright, and then there's the mouth. Okay, so Now we're going to pick our threads and we'll be ready to finish all the raw edges on the shapes. So now we need to pick our threads to finish all the edges. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 colors in this. And I don't feel like changing my threads 10 times. I'm sure you don't either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of the turkey, including the red and the orange and the tan, with chocolate brown. So one spool will do the whole turkey except for the white and the black. I will change for white and I will change for black. That just looks nicer. Then for the chicken, instead of doing gold and orange, we're going to do the whole chicken in orange, both the yellow and the orange, because that way all this yellow will have an outline, but it's not as strong as like a black outline. So we have brown for turkey, and orange for the chick, and then for the bunny, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do everything in dark gray, except for the embroidery. We'll do that in black when we have the black on. So the dark gray will go around the pink and the gray. So now, instead of having lots of spools of thread, we're going to use 3 spools of thread. And 4 and 5. 5 spools of thread, so we don't have to change every time. So this guy this month is pretty detailed. He's got a lot of little bits and pieces to him. So I'm going to go over to the machine next and show you how we deal with all these tiny pieces and how we stitch around them. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so we're now over at the machine and we've got the gray thread loaded for the bunny rabbit, which again, we're going to do everything but the eyes in gray for the bunny, orange for the chick, and brown for the turkey. That way we'll have to change our threads 3 times. And it doesn't really matter which color you start with. I tend to start with the biggest color most of the times, but in this case it really didn't matter. So I'm just going from left to right, doing the bunny, then the turkey, then the chicken. So when you do start, you want to start with one of the bigger parts. 1, it's a little easier to kind of warm up on, and 2, my idea is to get the bigger parts anchored down first so that if something pops off, it's not something really vital I have to realign. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start here on the head, come around to the head, we'll catch the ears while we do the head, come back around, and then we'll do the body, again catching the legs as we do the body. Then we'll go in and do the arms and the belly and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And when you're dealing with littler things, like when we get to these little chicken legs here, I'm probably going to lower my stitch length a bit so that it doesn't bite all the way across the leg. There is nothing saying you have to have the same stitch throughout the whole piece. Adjust the stitch. Same thing here, like on the nose. I will drop the stitch down when I do the nose so it bites in. So the stitch is more in proportion to the piece versus one stitch size for the whole thing. One size did not fit all. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I do is align. I use an open toe foot. This is extremely important. You want a foot that is open. There's no bars, no plastic, no nothing. It's just so you can see the stitch and what you're doing. And most feet, mine does, but most feet do have like a center line here. That center line is going to align with the edge of your fabric. The blanket hole stitch will bite into the applique shape, and the straight will go along the outer edge of that shape. So you don't want both the straight and the bite on the same piece. You want the straight in the piece behind it and the bite in the top piece. So open toe foot is the best advice I can give you, because I see so many people try to do this without an open toe foot, and it just is very, very challenging. So, you know, and it's a foot that usually comes with machines. A lot of the machines do have them, and if they don't, it's not a real expensive foot. So first I pull the bobbin thread up to the top, and I make sure I'm aligned on the center. And what I do is I kind of hold my thread so they don't go all over the place. I hand crank the needle down to make sure it's right where I want it to be. And it is. So then we're going to go ahead and get started sewing. And alright, so I've zoomed in so that you can have a much better view of the stitching here and not so much all the other stuff. So here we go. So when you're dealing with these bigger pieces, you're just going around, and when you get to a curve like this is a gentle enough curve. I don't need to press. Oh, if you have needle down, make sure you put that on, because what I'm going to do now is lift my foot and pivot, and with that needle down, this piece is not moving. If the needle was up, then it would move all over. So if you don't have a needle down position feature, crank the needle down before you lift your foot up and pivot. That is something you'll just have to train yourself to do before you lift your foot. But that being said, if you're looking for a new machine, needle down is a really good feature to have. And see how I'm lifting it slightly and I pivot. Now when we get to the little ears, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the base of the ears. And then right when I get to where they intersect with the head, I'm going to do one reverse stitch to lock that in place. And then I'm going to lift my needle up and drag the thread over travel. I call it traveling. Do a stitch, reverse stitch to lock it, and then continue around the ears. So doing small, delicate pieces is not much harder than doing larger pieces. You just have to do a lot more lifting and pivoting, and you may have to change your stitch length periodically. So you do need to look at those kind of things. But for the overall, littler is not any harder than bigger. Now, if you're just starting out, I do recommend bigger, but again, once you get it under your belt, it's not hard to do. And again, now this one, remember I cut this piece of the ear and I tucked the pink underneath. And I did that, so now let me get this stray hair thread out of there. So now when I come around to blanket stitch it, oops, and I come up, oops, see, now I popped up that feather. I can either press it or I can just hold it in place while I stitch it. But now when I come around, I can just go over this side of the ear, but I don't have to go over it this way because that edge is caught underneath. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the interior while we're here. Because every bunny has to have a pink ear, interior ear. Little known fact, I was born on Easter, so bunnies are particularly special to me. And I've been drawing them for years, and I actually had a pet bunny named Pumpkin, and she was a mini lop, and she would look at you and she'd always have one ear down. So when I draw a bunny, no matter what I'm drawing it for, you'll always see it with one ear down in honor of Pumpkin, my pet rabbit that I had for years. She traveled with me when I moved to Arizona. She was with me at college. She was a very well-traveled. She moved to Connecticut with me. Sadly, we lost her here because I think she just got old. So when you see my bunnies and you see the ear down, you'll know it's Pumpkin. Alright, so now that we've gone all the way around the head, we've gotten the ears, I'm going to come back and do the nose because I have to adjust my stitch. I am going to take care of this arm. And then travel back over here. And then at the end, after I'm done with the bunny, before I start the next color, I'll just go through and cut off my threads. You see I keep my hand up underneath, and I just lift as I turn. It's very subtle to just watch, but that is how I do these little shapes, because you do pivot so much and lift that foot so often. So again, we're going to do it over here. We'll do a reverse to lock that stitch. As soon as you feel like you're not on this, going straight, it's time to lift the foot and pivot. And you're going to notice we have to do that a lot with these little guys, but they're oh so cute. They're worth it. There we go. And now we're back to where we started. Reverse stitch to lock. And then we're going to come up. And the arm is right here and you can't even see it. So that's why I went with the darker thread. so that it will make that arm pop out, and you'll be able to see there's something in front of her belly. Then we got to do the belly. So you can see you can do this. I could change it to pink, and I could change every color. And I've done that on the last couple of free blocks, but for this little guy, I thought it would be fun to show you. You can still use multiple colors. You just don't have to have 9 colors. We're just going to do 3. Alright, so now that everything is done but her nose, I'm changing the stitch width, not the stitch length. I want the bite to be shorter. And then we're going to come up here and do the nose. Now that's too small. And it's okay if you do too small, you can always go back over. So here, that's perfect. Now you see I slow right down and go very slow when I'm doing these little ones. And then after we're done with all the blanket stitching, I'll show you how to do the line stitch. The embroidery for the mouth on the machine versus by hand. You can always hand embroider it, but usually I'm in a hurry and don't have time to do it. Alright, so there's his little nose. So we're going to just cut him out. I'm going to zoom this back out. And this is where we just go through and we want to snip all our traveling threads, and you want to do back and front because on the back the threads can get caught on your machine, on your throat plate, and it just can screw up your stitch. So that is it. I'm going to go ahead and do the turkey and the chicken the same way, and I'm just going to speed that up for you, and then I'll show you that embroidery. Alright, so we are going to do the embroidery using the machine. We're going to use a triple stitch. It'll stitch back, forwards, and it gives you a nice thick stitch that looks like it's been hand embroidered. You can use pearl cotton and an embroidery needle and just hand do it, but I like doing it on the machine just because it's a little bit faster and a little bit easier. I do take the stitch length all the way down to 1. And it will go backwards, forwards, backwards. So you don't want to start right on the end. You want to start a little in, because you see there it goes biting back. And by just dropping the stitch length down to 1, I have much more control over it. So there it is. So there's 2 toes. And I'm going to jump up to the mouth so you can see that, and then I'll do the other foot after. So on this one, again, don't want to start on the end, just a little in from the end. You only have to do it on the end once to go, dang it, it's too long. And it's such a tiny stitch, I don't feel like I need to, secure stitch it or not stitch it. If your machine has that feature, certainly use it, but on this one, it's such a tight stitch. By shortening it, it's pretty secure. But you have to have the shorter stitch to get around these curves and actually make it look like a curve and not like a bunch of jagged straight edges. Okay, and then we're going to come back down. So by going right next to it, that one little spot under her nose or his nose, I haven't decided yet, is going to be a little bit thicker, and that's what I want. That's how I would draw it with a pen. So this is kind of like just drawing with stitches. Okay, so there's his little mouth all done. It got a little pointy at the one spot, but it's, it's good enough for government work. He's still a happy bunny. See how that mouth just makes him come to life. And then we'll just do this last foot and our block will be done. Here is our Are Family block all stitched. You can see from the back, I still have a couple threads to clip, but I always flip it over to the back to kind of check and make sure I've stitched everything. It's a lot easier to check it now while it's a little block than when it's in a big quilt. So there it is. You can see we've done the embroidery stitching for the mouth and the hand, or the mouth and the little feet on the bunny rabbit. You can see how the gray pops the pink, and the orange is helping define that wing on the chickadee. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, make sure you like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you like and subscribe below. You can find the Whimsical Workshop on our website, thewimschoolworkshop.com, and that has all links to all of our other social media platforms. Thanks for joining us.